Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, it was no surprise the New Orleans Saints failed to give the home crowd a victory in the final home game of 2024. But did you really get beat by 2 touchdowns to the lowly Las Vegas Raiders? I don't know. This morning we have a question for even the diehard of diehard Spencer Rattler lovers. Will you admit that this experiment needs to end after next week's game in Tampa? Oh, will you remain stubborn and still make excuses and try to tell us how great he played in that 10-point first half he had? Well, what about who should be the Saints coach next season and the season beyond that? Well, hopefully it's just one guy, right? I have some guidelines that I know the team won't follow, but it will make me feel better by telling them to you. And I'll open the show with comments. We have Mano E Monday. We have Derry's Dime. We'll hear from interim coach Darren Rizzi, Cam Jordan, and we'll end the show by talking to Uncle Big Nick and Gabe Henderson, who will get me all fired up. We'll talk about bowl games, college football Elite Eight, all coming up next. I have taken enough Dayquil and Flonase to make it through the next hour, so let's cue the music. Let's start this show, shall we?
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? Man, it is good to be back in front of this little tiny camera I got here and not laying in bed. It has been a tough week, but I'm alive. I'm not feeling great, but I'm feeling good enough. I got Gabe and UBN to rile me up before the show started. We had a stupid, inane debate that's been going on, I don't know, the last, 20 years or so. We'll talk about that in the offseason. You don't even know. Just to have you know, I'm fired up. I don't even need Dayquil. Just those guys are medicine enough to get me riled up. They are in the green room. They will be coming on at the end of the show. We'll be talking about college football playoff picks. Yeah, that starts tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit. We're even going to mention the Texas Bowl. We'll have picks on the Texas Bowl. LSU playing tomorrow. They have gone from they started out, they were a 4-point favorite about a week and a half ago. They're in a 3.5-point dog. What has changed so much to make that line drop? That's absurd. Okay. Not to give any spoiler alerts or anything, but I think it's absurd. We'll talk about it. Did I miss anything this past week? I mean, I was able to watch TV at least. I tried to sleep. This has been the weirdest illness I've had. Like, it's been every day, it's been like something new. It's just something new. So the first half of it, I couldn't sleep at all. You'd think it'd be, I'm so sleepy, but couldn't sleep, just sitting there miserable. But so I watched a lot of TV the first 3 days, but that's how I spent Christmas. The family went off, went to Phil's house. I stayed at home. I did watch football. So at least there's that. And I know that the Saints have had a lot of sucking too. You know what doesn't suck? Dattitude, episode number 326, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Monday, December the 30th, 2024, the final show of the year. Even in this horrendous season, it is going by so fast. It is hard to believe that this is the final show of the year, but it is. I'm your host, Jim Derry, 34 plus years on the New Orleans sports media scene. I thank you so much for being a part of our growing family. We got a lot of comments in the queue. We are going to have Mano E Monday. We are going to have Derry's Dime. I've got an interesting, I think pretty much everybody, you know how I have some Derry's Dimes and we got some people out there who are on the fence and people come at me. I think we're all going to be kind of on the same page today. I don't think there's going to, you never know with this show. You never know, but I think we're going to mostly be on the same page today. I don't even think it's going to really be all that negative. I mean, we know where we are, right? So look, we got a lot to talk about, but I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. That's why we do what we do on Mondays. So is it the penultimate Mano E Monday of the year? Who knows? Maybe we'll keep Mano E Monday going on after the Saints are done. We'll see. But we'll talk about all that in a minute. First, I want to start the show by giving a shout out and RIP. Look, I don't talk politics on the show, but I will say, one of my first memories, at least, it's not my first memory. I do have a few memories before I was, 8 or 9 years old. But one memory I had were my parents taking me to a Jimmy Carter rally here in New Orleans back. And I remember being little. Yes, I was once little. Back and then walking around. It was in the French Quarter. I don't know why we were walking around the French Quarter, but we were. And I'm this little kid. And I remember my first experience with claustrophobia. I'm one of the most claustrophobic people you'll ever see. Okay. I have a tough time. That's one of the reasons why I have a tough time flying. I don't have a fear of flying. I have a fear of being cooped up in that little seat for 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is. I get over it. I find ways to get over it, but it ain't easy. But anyway, so my parents were big Jimmy Carter supporters back in the day. Again, whatever your politics, doesn't matter. And it is one of my first memories. And you can say what you want about whether he was a good president or a bad president or somewhere in between, but there's no denying that Jimmy Carter was one of the best human beings who's ever walked on this planet. The things that he did after he became president, after he left the presidency, and building homes and all the things that he went through, and imagining being married to the same person for, 73 years, I think, or 74 years, something along the 70 something years. My grandparents were married for 71 years. And it's just an amazing feat. I will not be married to my wife that long because I will not be here that long. We didn't get married until I was 37. So, I don't think I'm going to live to be 110 or whatever it is. But anyway, just wanted to give a shout out because I thought it was important. Whenever our president dies, again, it doesn't matter what your politics are. I think it's important to talk about it. And it's part of who we are. And a lot of you who watch the show weren't alive back then. Again, doesn't matter what you think about him while he was president, but he was one hell of a human being. So with that, we move on and let's say hello to some of the people we got out there this morning. We got Charles Mangus. Hope we had a very Merry Christmas. Even though I was ill, it was a good Christmas overall. We did not have a show Friday. So if you want to send out a message, you can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter. Whenever I don't have a show, if there's a reason, if you come on and we're supposed to have a show, we don't, you can say, I'll tell you why. So I sent a message on Facebook and Twitter. Excuse me. I hope I don't do that a lot this morning. I know that's annoying. Apathy. I hope the loss yesterday shook any delusion out on Airline Drive. No fan should accept tweaks, but wholesale changes. If Loomis tries to sell anything less, fans shouldn't pay to see this crap. You're getting ahead of my dime. I don't exactly say that, but I say some things along those lines. Gary says, good morning all. Have a safe and happy new year. Again, final show of the year? Really? Jeez. By the way, the Saints, you lose by 2 touchdowns to a Raiders team, by the way. And I'm going to get into some historical things on why this was such a bad loss. I mean, it's just to show where this team is in the annals of Saints history, where this team is right now, to lose by 15 points to a team that was in the running to be the first pick in the NFL draft. It's embarrassing. The Raiders didn't even get into town until Sunday morning at 1:30 a.m. 1:30 a.m. They got no sleep. They just marched into the dome and said, we don't need anything. We don't need sleep against you bunch of yahoos. There was some positives though. If you finally gotten over, look, I've gotten over it. I got over it a long time ago. Seems bad. So I've now kind of picked up on some teams, other teams that I'm looking at that I enjoy following. One of them is no question the Washington Commanders, right? How about Jaden Daniels? I'm going to talk a little bit about Jaden Daniels in the dime. Spoiler alert. But how about them Falcons? There was some positives yesterday. Them fail clowns. They did their thing. They choked. They had the NFC South in their grasp, and they choked. I don't want to be right. I know I said the Falcons were going to win this division. I don't want to be right when it comes to that. I hope I'm wrong. We ain't rooting for the Falcons. That is for sure. I don't love Tampa Bay, but I certainly like them more than I like Atlanta. I will say that, however, Michael Penix showed to me that he is really close to NFL ready. Going to be a force for them for some time. Michael Penix, pretty good. You can be a part of the show. As you know, I've shown already some of the comments. We're going to have a whole lot more this morning. Just type in your comment on YouTube or Facebook. And if you haven't already done so, give me a belated Christmas present and go subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a little like. They say it helps. I don't understand the algorithms, but whatever. I mean, I'm from the West Bank. Of course I don't understand algorithms. Just click the like button. We'll worry about it later, why it helps. Also, you can get in touch with me on X, Jim Derry Jr., or email jderry@theadvocate.com. Where do we even begin? Again, the dime is just moments away. So are more of the comments on this Mano E Monday. Before we get to the rest of the show and Mano E Monday, we need some positivity here. So let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. We want to ring in the new year with a bang. Well, how about you ring in 2026 retired or beginning a new venture? Whatever you want to do. Evangeline can guide you to your destination. They're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run, a privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you or someone you know, it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemo. Yeah, we'll start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices, either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. And from there, you will be well informed and begin the decision on if you want to proceed. Yeah, my grammar stinks. Whatever. We'll figure it out in the new year. What happens after that? Well, we'll fill you in more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, today on the show, besides comments, we again, I've got the dime coming up. I'm going to get the comments before I get to the dime. Also, we get clips from, as I said before, Darren Rizzi. Is that his final home game as a Saints coach? God, I hope so. I can't imagine that it's not. We'll talk about the coaching search. When will it begin? Does it begin a week from today? Has it already begun? Have they? You would hope that someone on Airline Drive has already called Mike Vrabel and at least talked to him, right? You just never know. Again, Gabe and Uncle Big Nick with college football playoff picks, and then we're going to end the show with a few more words about the Saints. All right, let's see what else we got. Randall's here. How about that, Spencer Rattler? How about that, Rat Man? I'm not going to give you too much grief. I'll go through it in the dime. We'll talk about it after, and then I'm interested to get your comments later. Adam Rattler's terrible offer overthrows everyone. It doesn't overthrow everyone, but he ain't good. I mean, I told you. In fact, I'm going to cut out a clip for you, and I'm going to run a clip that I ran across that someone sent me. I was going to do it today, and I decided not to. But it's a clip from me in April saying that Rattler was a wasted pick. Randall's already talked. All right. He thinks it can both be true that Rattler had a decent first half and he and the offense had a terrible second half. Why is it true that Rattler had a decent first half, but in the second half, the offense had a terrible second half? He didn't really have a decent first half anyway. He scored 10 points against the Raiders. That, even with my limited Shaw math skills, that's 20 points per game. So let's say he scored 10 points again in the second half and they lost 25-20. Would you still say he had a good game? No, you would. Well, you might, but you would be stubborn. You wouldn't be telling me the truth. Rocky, good morning. Rainy Cajun's here. Dattitude fan. Roy Steyer, cheers to a new year and a new beginnings is what I know that's what you meant with the Saints and Pelicans. Can you believe that it's December 30th and neither the Saints nor the Pelicans have 6 wins? How embarrassing is that? Jeez. Gene Kleinschmidt, Mrs. Benson unload Mickey Loomis. He's past his expiration date. You calling Mickey Loomis sour milk? Sav, Where do we even start with the draft? So many needs. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. Won't be long before we're talking about the draft. I have an illness every day, Randall says. It's called mental illness. Well, we all knew that. Good morning, Kyle. Psychotherapy in residence. Well, you got to have a mental illness to be able to help people with their own mental illnesses, right? Saint for Life says, when you can't beat a sorry Raiders team, it has to be the lowest of lows. It ain't the highest of highs. Tom says I sound like hell. You should have heard me a few days ago, buddy. We wouldn't have had this show. I mean, well, we didn't. We didn't have the show Friday. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to talk. I mean, you know. UBN's in the green room typing in comments. Rumor is the Raiders left Pat O's, came to the dome, whipped the Saints' ass. Possible. I mean, it really is. Danelle says Mickey Loomis got to go, period. Oh, we're going to talk about that for sure. Big Valley says we have to deal with the Penix pump for the next decade. Unfortunately, you're right. You know what? Dude, I'm not. And he got better last night as the game went along. I mean, he wasn't great in the first half. They scored what? It was 17-7 Falcons at halftime or early in the third quarter, one of the two. I didn't think he was great. Man, he turned it on down the stretch. Apathy says, not even sure if Evangeline Securities can fix airline drive if Gabe decides to get out of the game. Evangeline Securities would love to talk to Mrs. Benson if that's what she decides to do. Although I'm going to tell y'all this, and I'm glad you brought this up. Again, this isn't, we got to get to the dime. We're already 17 minutes in. But I'm going to say this. I've seen a lot of this on social media the last month or 2 months, but really seen it this past week. All these people talking about Mrs. Benson has got to sell the team and making fun of, quote unquote, an old lady. Are y'all crazy? You know what happens if she sells the team? They're probably going to move. You don't want her to sell the team, okay? There's no one in New Orleans, I don't think, unless you get this big group of people that can afford this team. You could say all the crap. Look, it's not that long. I don't want to hear it. It's not just Tom Benson. You know, we like to put too much blame on one person. Always. It's not just today. It's not just the Saints. It's everybody. We like to put too much blame on one person or two people, and we like to give too much credit to one person or two people. It wasn't just Drew Brees and Sean Payton that win Super Bowls. You can hate Mickey Loomis all you want. You can say give Tom Benson credit, sure. Come on, man. You don't want Gabe Benson to sell the team, I promise you. It wouldn't be a good thing at all. All right. Barry says, Captain Obvious, this team has no talent. They don't have a lot. Danelle says, you're in St. Louis. Try to catch my show. Yes, you're from there. Well, welcome from St. Louis. Welcome. All right. Let me get to the dime. Again, it's a little longer than most of them. So give me a second. And for those of you who are new to the show, every Monday after a game, or whatever day the Saints play the day after a game, I have a prepared script. It's literally the only part of the show that's prepared except for the very beginning. And it's something that I think about and craft because there are things that I want to say and want to make sure that we get to. And there were some things that came into my mind. Actually, a lot of times I'll write it right after the show. Other times I write it, right after the show. A lot of times I write it right after the game with things that are fresh in my mind. Sometimes I write it Monday morning. This is a combination of both. I was going to write it this morning. There's some things that I saw last night that kind of led into where I am. So here's the dime for today. I promise I'm trying not to do that. As I sat and watched Jaden Daniels lead the Washington Commanders to a victory over the hated Atlanta Falcons last night in overtime, I thought about just how lucky and grateful their fan base must feel. They've only been relevant for a few seasons since the turn of the century, and they haven't won a playoff game since being crowned NFL champions following Super Bowl 36 against the Buffalo Bills when Joe Gibbs was coach and the Hogs were the Hogs back in January of 1992. In fact, By taking Atlanta down, they won their 11th game of the season, which also is the most victories they've had since that Super Bowl season. I have to admit, I was jealous. I watched one of my favorite current football players marching another team down the field. And as a rookie, he was breathing life into a previously moribund franchise and its fan base. It came just 7 hours after I watched a hapless football team that has become worse and worse each season since its unquestioned leader on the field succumbed to Father Time and left us here alone to return to the bowels of mediocrity or beyond. Yes, I say it often, and reality continues to set in. Drew Brees is gone, and he's never coming back. But still, I wonder, where is our Jaden Daniels? Who does he play for now? Is he someone we've already heard of? Or is he still running around a peewee field or currently playing on his high school basketball team? In other words, do we have to wait a year or two, another half a lifetime, or somewhere in between? One thing is for sure, there's nothing even kind of close to our next franchise savior anywhere near this current team. I don't mean to be a jackass, but even those who are the mightiest of mighty hopes for Spencer Rattler's future have to finally realize if he is part of any upcoming plans, it really doesn't matter who the next general manager or the coach will be. There will be many more meaningless Decembers in January to come if Spencer Rattler is a starting quarterback for this football team anytime soon. In fact, I dare anyone to find a single player, and not just Spencer Rattler, anyone, any single player in this roster who truly fires you up about the near future. I'm not talking about someone who can be a starter for the Saints for multiple seasons. I'm asking you, who on this current team gets you excited? Who could be a regular Pro Bowler? Who will be the one that Tony Romo or Tom Brady or Greg Olsen or Chris Collinsworth or Troy Aikman can't wait to talk about? Will we even have any of the above calling Saints games in the near future? Or will the New Orleans Saints become the Jacksonville Jaguars? Will they become the New York Giants? Or will they become the team that completely outplayed the Saints on Sunday? The 4-12 Las Vegas Raiders, who had only won 5 road games in 3 seasons before Sunday and hadn't won by 15 or more points on the road since 2016. Other than after Katrina, when no one even knew if we'd play again in the Superdome. I haven't felt this hopeless about the near future of the Saints franchise since the Ditka days. Yesterday was a microcosm of why I feel that way. It wasn't just Rattler, quite the contrary. The fact he's the best the Saints have to turn to is mighty telling. And remember not long ago when we were talking about how potentially this could be a top 5 defense? Wow. Was I wrong about that one? On Sunday, the Saints made Aiden O'Connell look like a seasoned veteran. In a few minutes, you'll hear from Darren Rizzi's press conference, and he'll talk about the defense's third down efficiency or lack thereof. The Raiders are the 5th worst team in the NFL converting third downs at 35.4%, just 2 spots ahead of the Saints. On Sunday, the Raiders converted 10 of 18 third down attempts for 55.6%. Meanwhile, Rattler and the Saints couldn't keep a drive going. They were just 1 of 10 on third down. And Rattler in the second half, 9 of 22 for 68 yards and 2 interceptions. Oh, and his fumble, too. He has now led his team to 10 points over the past 8 quarters and 47 in the past 20 quarters he's played in, which averages out to 9.4 points per game. Even Drew Lock, Mac Jones, and O'Connell are better than that. Perennial backup Tyler Huntley led the Dolphins to a 20-3 victory in the mud in Cleveland in his first start of the season. Philly scored 41 points with Kenny Pickett and some dude named Tanner McKee at quarterback. We know Derek Carr won't be here much longer, whether it be a couple of months or a couple of years. I know what a lot of you are hoping for. Hopefully, the Saints one day soon will find someone who legitimately can take over this franchise with the backing of its fan base. That guy doesn't need to be Drew Brees. He just needs to be something different than we have now. We will spend much of the rest of the show sharing our opinions on who needs to go and who needs to stay. We'll almost surely talk about who we'd like to all see coaching this team next season and beyond. We might even talk about where the Saints need to go in the draft. We won't agree on any of this except for one thing. I should say we won't all agree on this except for one thing. We all agree major changes need to be made, and they need to be made beginning a week from today when this season comes to a merciful end. 6 months ago, my friend Mike Detillier said the Saints were one of 20 NFL teams in football purgatory. Since then, they have dropped through a big old hole and fell into football hell. How long they remain there will very much depend on what happens over the course of the next 4 months. Keep your fingers crossed, and despite a downer of a dime, your hope's up. And that is the dime. How can anyone be encouraged by anything they saw yesterday? Chris Reed, no one. Brisset, Randall says Brisset is definitely a bright spot for the future, so is Carl Granderson. I'm not talking about bright spots. I'm talking about someone who gets you excited. Brisset, yes, he is a solid starter. He should be a solid starter for this team for probably years to come. Does he get you excited? No, he doesn't. Don't lie. That's what I'm talking about. Who gets you excited? Fuaga has potential to be a Pro Bowler. I like his upside. He's a good player, but Saint for Life says no one gets him excited. He's a good player. He jumped off sides twice yesterday and had a holding penalty. Kyle says Fuaga gets him excited. Fuaga doesn't get me excited. Oh, now you're saying, Randall saying Rattler is the starting quarterback going forward. He'll be fighting for the backup job. You were telling me before that he was the potential future of this franchise. And I'm not calling you out, Randall. I'm going to give you credit because you're the only one here who at least is coming in and semi-backing up what he said before. All the Rattler lovers from before. And again, I'm not just singling out Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler is kind of an icon of where this team is right now. Spencer Rattler is a mess. Okay? And so is this team. So I'm giving you credit for coming in here and at least backing up what you said before. All those people before who were saying Spencer Rattler was the future of this team and were giving me crap because I said he's not any good, they're all gone. They might still watch the show for all I know. They don't comment anymore. Chris Reed says, I think it's time to blow it up. Use money for a top-tier O-line and let a cheaper quarterback shine. It's definitely time to blow it up. Definitely time to blow it up. Foster Moreau, one of the few bright spots for the Saints. Jason Foray, I don't necessarily disagree, but I don't think Foster Moreau is someone to get excited about, and not even really, I don't know. I mean, Foster Moreau is a contributing player, okay? If you got a 53-man roster, he should be, if you want to be a good team, he should be like the 30th guy you talk about, right? Definitely not somebody I'm getting fired up about. Saint for Life says Kenny Pickett was throwing dimes yesterday. He certainly looked better than anything we got. Well, anyone we got that's not injured. John Pace, who dat, baby? Yes, the Saints are a mess. Charles Mangus, Rat is a backup at best. I mean, here's the point. Again, I don't mean to bash on Spencer Rattler. Again, to me, he is a microcosm. He is the icon of what is wrong with this team. It's not even kind of just him. But the fact that you're going to this, the fact that you thought you could make him, that he was ready to be a backup, just goes to show that you didn't expect this team to be good. Not realistically, because realistically, if you thought this team was going to have any chance, you wouldn't have had Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener as your backup. It's not realistic. And if it was realistic, then that's even more proof that this whole entire organization needs to be cleaned, scrubbed with bleach. That Raider fan. You got to be excited about something, Raider fan. Don't worry, we'll be fine. Could always be a masochist. You mean a Raider fan. You know, man. You know, how many times, Gabe and I have talked about this on the show. This started back in September, or maybe even before that. Raider fan says he's in hell right now. We go back to teams that we would rather be, and I had a list of about, I don't know, 8 or 9. That was about 4 or 5 or 6 too many. I mean, Uncle Big Nick says Penix is okay, but he's no Rattler. Or Desmond Ritter either, right? Look, guys and gals, the point of this entire thing is that the reboot on this team needs to happen ASAP. I am not necessarily, or not, you know what? Let's get to, we got 2 clips for you today. One's Darren Rizzi talking about yesterday, and then also kind of talking about his future, which kind of all blend into one to me. I find it interesting. Remember a few weeks ago, there were actually people commenting on this show on Mano E Monday that they thought Darren Rizzi could be the future of this team. No one thinks that now. Darren Rizzi doesn't. Darren Rizzi knows that he's packing his bags as soon as the game's over next week. There's a lot of people know they're packing their bags. It just, this clip kind of is telling to me and where this team is right now. That uber fired up, super positive Darren Rizzi, yippee, yippee, yippee. Can't even find fun things to say. Minute and 35, we'll be back on the other side and talk about maybe who the next coach might be, because it ain't him.
No, listen, we didn't execute. We dropped some passes. We missed on a couple. Pass protection wise, I felt like Spencer never really got settled in there, and he was moving around, and he made some plays moving around, to his credit. But like I said, we had some drops. We had some penalties offensively that kind of stalled. If I'm not mistaken, we were over the 40-plus-40-yard line twice, and had penalties that pushed us back into a punt situation. And you're in a game like this, you got to come away with some points there when you're down there. And so they had 18 third downs, and they converted on 10 of them. And so the fact that they had we got them into 18 third down situations, if we're gonna get off the field there and give the offense another chance and get the punt return team back out there, all those things, we just couldn't find a rhythm there on third down. To their credit, they converted and we couldn't get them off the field. And I think that was really the number one stat when you look at the game, was the third down conversions, because those are like turnovers. And then again, we were 0 for 8. So I think you really don't have to look very much past that one statistic, really the stat of the day, in my opinion.
This has kind of been an audition for you as well. Do you worry about the way that these last few games have gone?
I really don't look at it like that. I know maybe from an outside perspective, you guys look at it like that, and you're right. But I can't concern myself with that right now. We'll coach this last week, take a step back, and then we'll evaluate the whole thing. And the powers to be will evaluate the whole thing, and we'll go from there. I'm not. I can't be overly concerned with that.
He can't concern himself with that because he doesn't need to concern himself with that because, only a moron, and I don't think Darren Rizzi's a moron, only a moron would think that he's going to get this job. Honestly, if I'm Rizzi at this point, I'm almost like pulling my name from consideration. It also goes to talk about, we can talk about Mike Vrabel. We got some names on here. We got some people making suggestions, and I'll show a lot of them here. Here's the problem, though. Here's the biggest problem of them all. You talk about Mike Vrabel. You talk about Ben Johnson. You can talk about Aaron Glenn. You can talk about whoever you want. Whoever you think is the best fit for this team, Joe Brady, whoever, it doesn't make a difference. The biggest problem is going to be, who the hell is going to want to come here? That's the problem. Think about when Sean Payton came here in 2005. He wanted to be a head coach so bad. Who was offering him the job? No one. Which is surprising because he was one of the up-and-coming offensive coordinators at the time. Or maybe it was just that his ego was that big that, like Jim Mora back in 1986, Jim Mora had options in 1986. Again, he told us the story on this show a couple years ago. He could have gone to Arizona or he could have gone to St. Louis. He had his choice. He chose to come to New Orleans. Or Philadelphia, not St. Louis. Arizona, Philadelphia here. He chose to come here. He didn't know Jim Finks at all. He chose to come here because he thought he could turn a team that had never been a winner into a winner. He was right. Now, he didn't take them to the step that we all would have liked him to have taken them. But if you go back and think about where they were, he certainly took them to somewhere they weren't. Now it's time, and I see all the, I'm not going to show them all. I've talked about this before. You could talk about fire Mickey Loomis, fire Mickey Loomis, fire Mickey. Stop saying it. It doesn't matter that you think that. Stop torturing yourself with the fire Mickey Loomis crap. Mickey Loomis is not getting fired. Okay? It has nothing to do with whether Gail Benson thinks he should be fired or whatever. Mickey Loomis is ingrained in this franchise. He will, I don't know if I believe this anymore, but, I said for a long time he's kind of earned the right to leave when he wants to leave. Here's the thing. I think that Mickey's going to leave on his own. Who would want to be a part of rebuilding this team right now at his age? The man is, I don't know if he's 68 or 69, is one of those two. This isn't, I know that in 2005, miracles happened. I believe there were higher forces that helped this franchise become an NFC championship team in 2006. They got Drew Brees, they got Sean Payton. The heavens were on their side. If you don't believe in higher powers, then I don't know what to tell you, because there's no way that doesn't happen without a higher power. But that's not happening this time. This team needs so much, and they have no money to do it. Okay? That's the huge difference between now and 2005. There is no money. No money. By the way, Christy, I hope you're talking about the Raiders having their best 5 players out, because I know Max Crosby didn't play. I will not accept a single excuse on this show for anyone. That includes Rattler. That includes Rizzy. That includes anyone. I don't make excuses when Derek Carr's playing. I don't make excuses when Alvin Kamara's playing. We don't make excuses on this show. The Raiders played without Max Crosby, who is by far their best player, unless you want to say some kind of way maybe Brock Bowers is their best player. I mean, you could argue that, and I wouldn't sit here and fire back at you. But they beat the Saints by 15 points on the road. Again, if you didn't hear me say it before, it's the first time they won by 15 or more on the road in 8 years. They didn't just beat it. It wasn't just because the Saints didn't show up. Okay? It's because the Saints aren't any good. This Saints defense, they have injuries, no more than anyone else has. You think the Detroit Lions are crying about their injuries? The Detroit Lions are as banged up as almost anyone. Yet they have a chance to get win number 14 tonight on Monday Night Football. They have, I forget what the number is, 75% chance to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. They have mega injuries. You see them crying? You see them making excuses? No. We don't make excuses. Who's going to be the next coach? I mean, is it going to be Rattler? Rattler. Is it going to be Loomis that's making the decision? I don't know. Here's what I know, okay? I would be shocked if Mickey Loomis has not made some sort of move with himself, because that's what's going to happen. Either he's going to step aside on his own, or it ain't happening. Monday is January the 6th, correct? January the 6th. If Mickey Loomis is still the general manager of this football team by January the 9th, you can be pretty much sure that he ain't going anywhere. Okay? I don't think this team is going to wait. They know they can't afford to wait. Black Preacher Man, good morning. A late Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and everyone else in the Dattitude family. I'm just telling you, man, that I'm telling you what reality is. We talk about reality on this show. You can hate Mickey Loomis. You can blame Mickey Loomis. Did you give him credit when they won? Probably didn't. You can blame Gail Benson. You can blame whoever you want. You can blame the ticket salesperson. You can blame the turf in the dome. You can blame Eric McCoy for being hurt. You can blame Derek Carr because you hate Derek Carr. Whatever you want to blame. Doesn't make a difference. This team needs massive changes. They're all to blame. They're all a part of it, in my opinion. Every single one of the people we mentioned, everyone has a share of the blame. This team's got a long way to go. They got a lot of who's going to be the next coach. Again, John Fonseca says that Derek Carr played yesterday and had Spencer's stats, it would be a witch hunt in NOLA for Derek. I mean, go back to the loss to the Carolina Panthers. There was a witch hunt that day. That's that Monday. I mean, who do you even want to coach this football team? I have some guidelines that I know the Saints aren't going to follow, but I think it's fun to have on this show as they go forward. And I don't have it's not a lot. It's a pretty short list, okay? Number one on my list is I don't want anyone over the age of 50. This team needs youth and needs invigoration, okay? You're not going to get that from any. I had multiple Dattitude family members either message me or somehow send in, and no one said it here, that they were asking about John Gruden. And you can't do it. First of all, first and foremost is the last thing this team needs is a circus. And what John Gruden would bring beyond what any of you think of John Gruden, and I ain't getting into all that crap. Not on this show, not today. If he gets hired, then we'll have to get into it. But this team doesn't need a circus and all his baggage. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go Google it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you've been living under a rock or you just became a football fan a couple of years ago. They ain't hiring John Gruden. Second is he's 60. So he doesn't fit have to be under 50 years old. They don't need John Gruden. Apathy. The John Gruden hire will make someone go release Mylar balloons in New Orleans. Rainy Cajun says no retreads. PBM going back to some Saints fan booed Carr to 18 straight completions last year. That's probably true. So no John Gruden. And so my second rule or guideline or whatever that the Saints are not going to accept, not going to take, not going to care that I say is no retreads. How have retreads worked out? Just in general, not just with the Saints, not just Dennis Allen, just in general, how do retreads work? Now, it's hard not to necessarily pick a retread because if you're marking off guys that have been a head coach in the NFL, it's hard. So I'm going to say there are exceptions, and Mike Vrabel may be one of those exceptions. You can maybe give me another one that you're open to. He's got to be he's got to be 50 or under. Vrabel is going to be 50 next year, so he's like right on the cusp. I think Vrabel would bring in a strong OC candidate, maybe even keep Clint Kubiak. I'm not sold on Clint Kubiak, but I'm also not ready to say if there was anyone you were going to keep at all, like potentially, possibly, I'm not saying keep him. I've already said clean from the floor, scrub from the studs, but that's not how other people think necessarily. So if there was one person you could potentially keep, it'd be Kubiak. But the problem with keeping Kubiak, even if you like him, is then you probably keep a lot of the people that are with him, and then that's a problem. So I don't know. So I would say that if it were to be a Mike Vrabel or someone, he would have to go out and get someone else. Randall, stop. Name me a quarterback that's step into this team right now and win. No one. No one. You got to start from the bottom. That doesn't mean I want Spencer Rattler anywhere near this team. Stop defending players that can't play. I'd rather see the water boy come in and quarterback next week, to be honest. The dude is 0-5. Stop defending him. He's not good. He's not even good enough. And I'm being dead serious. I don't even think the guy's good enough to play in the UFL. Yeah, Rainey. Forgot to bring this up. Yesterday, we're talking, well, not just yesterday. Uncle Big Nick started. I thought he was joking with me. But come to find out, I saw it elsewhere on social media that people were actually talking about Pete Carroll. You insane? Pete Carroll? First of all, besides the fact that he's about 91 years old, I don't care what shape he's in. I don't want the guy who made the absolute worst call in NFL history. Yeah, the worst call in NFL history. You let Russ throw the ball instead of giving the ball to the man who you know would score a touchdown. No. By the way, Gabe points out, too, with John Gruden that he just signed a big deal with Barstool. Not going anywhere. He doesn't want to coach anymore, I don't think. Not going anywhere. Anyway, we're going to spend a lot of time over the course of the next, I don't know, couple weeks. And I can tell you this, if they do hire a coach, like suddenly, which is a possibility, we could be sitting here probably not a week from today. A week from today, they're all going to be packing their bags. Okay. That's what I can tell you right now, next Monday's show is going to be about them packing their bags. But sometime before, we got a show next week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We go back to our Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. Is it possible? I don't think it's going to happen. But is it possible by the end of next week, by that Friday show, we actually have a show on who the next Saints head coach is going to be? It's a possibility. Jason Benson, you got a point. They already packed. Yeah. You got a point. You can't start the process of reorganizing this team soon enough. Okay. It starts at the top. Again, if Mickey Loomis is still the general manager, I'm going to be generous. Okay. It's going to happen before this. If it's going to happen, but I'm going to be generous. If Mickey Loomis is still the general manager of this team and we do this show on Friday, January the 10th, then he's not going anywhere. He knows right now whether he wants to be a part of this or not. And if he wants to be a part of it, then he's going to be a part of it. He is I'd be shocked if he completely steps down and he says, I want nothing to do with doing this job anymore at all. But what I think would probably happen is he would probably move on to an advisory role. Charles says in February, they most likely, no. There's no way they wait till February. You don't want to be behind the other teams that need a coach. You don't want to be the third or the fourth. You want to be the first or the second guy. Look what happened to the Commanders that worked out for the Commanders. Dan Quinn sucks. I'm sorry, sucks. I saw some moves last night. If the Commanders had a really good coach, I'd be talking about them winning the Super Bowl like really soon. Dan Quinn sucks. They got sniped because they waited too long. Go get the coach you want. Whoever it is, whether it's wrong or right, be the first one so you can't get sniped. Because if this is a big if you want Mike Vrabel, go get Mike Vrabel. Talk to him now. If you think Mike Vrabel is going to be on that unemployment line long after January the 5th, you cray. Ain't going to happen. We all stop talking about Rattler. Seriously. I guarantee you that very soon from now, Rattler's name will be nowhere in this comment feed ever again. It won't be long. That Rattler will be, remember that every now and then will say, remember when we were talking about, yeah. He won't be in this comment stream much longer. I mean, he almost got MVS sent to the hospital yesterday. Y'all see that? I mean, dude, MVS got almost decapitated. Anyway, Also, before we get to, we're gonna talk some college football playoffs in just a minute with Gabe and Uncle Big Nick. We're gonna end the show with last 10 to 15 minutes will be Saints talk again. But I do want to talk about college football playoffs, and I want to talk about LSU for just a moment. Charles, you got a point. It could be. Jets will be the first team to hire a new coach. They're going to get who they want, right? Are they going to get Ben Johnson? I don't know. I mean, first of all, Ben Johnson ain't coming here. But you got to remember, though, you got to wait until. So, Charles, maybe you're right. Maybe if the guy they want is still coaching, like an Aaron Glenn, I really don't want Aaron Glenn, but that's who it is. Could be right. I don't know. Maybe it will be that long. I guess coaches also are able to talk to other teams while they're still preparing for the playoffs. We've seen it in the past. So-and-so is going to be the team. So-and-so is going to go to this team when his season ends. We've seen that before. John Pace, I got to disagree with you. Saints organization is greater than this Jet. Nope. No, they're not. I mean, to me, the Jets have a decent offensive line, not great. They have two really good young running backs. They have a fantastic young wide receiver, and they got a decent defense. They are way ahead of the Saints right now, in my opinion. Jason wants to know if we're up for a toga party. Uncle Big Nick is. I'll show you why in a minute. But here's my last question for right now. Again, we're going to finish the show. Last 10 minutes of the show are going to be, I'm going to get your suggestions. Who do you want to see as the Saints next head coach? That's going to be the last 10 minutes, 10, maybe 15 minutes of the show. So save them. Don't give them to me right now. And if you typed one in, copy it, and you can paste it again when we come back, because I'm about to move on. And again, end the show with that. But before we move on to Gabe and Nick and talk about college football playoffs, I do want to ask a question about Cam Jordan. Is this the last time Cam Jordan plays in the Caesars Superdome, at least as a New Orleans Saint? He sure was kind of acting like it at the end yesterday. I almost used a picture of him walking off the field. He spent more time on that field after that game yesterday than maybe he spent in a long time. I'm just saying, it could be. And we hear from Cam Jordan, minute 20-second clip of him talking about it. You could take his words and then decipher for yourselves. Last thing we talk about the Saints before we get to college football. I seen some comments in there, no sound. I could hear it on my end. Gabe said he heard it. So I don't know. Maybe it just the volume might have been a little bit low. John says he's got sound. He heard it. Randall says no sound. So I don't know. Maybe it was just lower volume for some of you. I tried to turn it up at parts because it was weird. The volume on it was going back and forth. Sounds 5 by 5. I don't know what that means. Anyway, Brian says he heard it. So, I mean, basically what he said was he was soaking it in. You never know. You never know if it's your last game. I mean, you can go read about it on NOLA.com/Saints. We wrote a story about it either earlier in the week or I don't know, maybe weekend. I'm not sure. There was a story about it. Cam Jordan, what his salary hit would be if the Saints decided to part ways with him, and it's a huge hit. Rainey says pilot term means loud and clear. He heard it fine. On an Apple device. So I don't know. I don't know what y'all all listen to. Doesn't really matter. But anyway, basically he said he soaked it all in because he doesn't know if it's the last year. Would the Saints take a big hit? If you're going to completely change up what's going on here, then maybe. I mean, I thought that what I found interesting was Cam Jordan was non-existent until about Thanksgiving. Like, I don't think I made a joke with Zach Ewing in the press box. One of the games around Thanksgiving, I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I said, I don't think I've called his name in a month or heard his name called in a month. All of a sudden, he decided to start playing. Well, I'll take it back. Cam Jordan never decided to not stop playing. He made his presence felt in that last month. Why he wasn't able to do that in the first couple months of the season, I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with Rizzy. I don't know. Maybe it did coincide with when Rizzy took over. I don't know. You know, Jason says he thought he was washed up until Rizzy shuffled D-line coaches. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Maybe he does have another year in him. I don't know. But I'm just saying for a team that needs to get young, I think he knows that it's 50-50. I think it's 50-50 whether he comes back. I really do. All right, we are going to, again, we're going to finish this show. I want you to think about who your potential next Saints coaching hires, who's going to be the next Saints coach? Who do you want to see? Not who do you think, or both, whatever. Who do you want to see as the next Saints coach and why? That's what we're going to finish the show up with, but we are going to move on to our college football playoff picks. First, before we do that, we told you earlier we will let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it, you ask? Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process from established private equity funds from around the world. And they will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Happy New Year to you. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area. Look it up. Go ahead, look it up. But that's not why they're one of the best. They're one of the best because they dedicate their lives to this. Day in, day out. No one has their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They are ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. Not whether Cam Jordan's coming back. Not who the next Saints coach is. Not whether Spencer Rattler will be known as Spencer the Great someday. No, what's really important is the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, here we go. Something we have never really tried here on the Dattitude podcast, at least not live. We've had a 3-box before, but we're going to do it here live. Let's see how it works. There we go.
I'm so glad you said 3-box and not threesome.
Oh, God. With that, that's the end of the show. See everybody later. We'll see you Friday. Happy New Year. There you are with your Animal House shirt that you had to tell me it was an Animal House shirt.
Yeah, I was hoping somebody would get it.
Well,
I've got a question for both of you. Before,
Chad, please let us know if you get Uncle Big Nick's show. Yes, this is a family show. Go ahead, Gabe.
How about them Colorado Buffaloes?
I don't even know. What did they do? They lost, right? They got their ass.
BYU wiped the floor with them.
Wasn't it like
my favorite bet of the week was that in the Miami over. I parlayed that.
Oh, sure.
everywhere.
Now it is because the show's over. You never said that before.
I have it in
Yes, I
writing
have.
that
I'm
BYU
just
money
kidding.
line was one of my favorite picks.
I'm just
I could,
kidding.
yeah, I could send you a couple.
But
things,
with that, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter leave Colorado without ever beating a top 25 team in their career.
That's a shame.
And you know
And that's
what? You know
why
what the best part is?
That's why the Giants won. They seen how he played that BYU game. They said, "No, we don't want the number 1 pick. Go ahead, Locke. Go tear up the Colts."
You know what the best part of all of that is?
But they lost?
ESPN. I think it was at 37-7 BYU. I think was the final.
No, 36-14.
Okay. ESPN posted one clip from that game, and it was the Travis Hunter touchdown to cut it to 27-7.
You're kidding.
No, I'm serious. That is the one. And then their headline afterwards said, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, end Colorado career with loss. Something like that.
Called clickbait, my friend. You have worked in this.
Heisman.
You have worked in this business long enough to understand how that works.
Yeah,
It's gonna be crazy. It's like I'm watching a tennis match.
All right. Well, let's get to this game. We're gonna make our picks here.
Christmas is over, Jim. Christmas is over.
Nope. I left that. I put that up just for you because I knew how much you hated it. Kyle Sherman says UBN with the Animal House reference. Nice.
Look at that. See, I knew some people would get it.
Randall is asking Gabe how his Christmas was.
Our Christmas was good, Gabe. I mean,
Didn't watch any
Randall.
football.
Didn't watch any. That's all I did was watch
No,
football.
there was no football on Christmas.
Is that intentional or because your girlfriend?
Nothing
said no
happened.
football?
Nothing happened on Christmas. There were no football.
Oh, that's right. The Houston
Because
Texans.
Texas
were
got
no football
destroyed.
games.
That's why he's saying that.
There were no
forgot about
football
that.
games.
Ooh, boy, did they get?
Do we have to
destroyed.
have the Bryce Young is better than CJ Stroud discussion yet?
Stop.
I don't know.
Just wondering. Just saying. Just throwing it
Who's
out
better?
there.
CJ Stroud
Who's better?
is
Who's
throwing.
better? Who's better? CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, or Spencer Rattler?
CJ Stroud is throwing to Michael Jordan's opponents.
No, man, we're not getting into that. With that, we're moving on. All right, we're making our picks for the week. We're gonna try to.
Bryce Young's throwing to 87-year-old Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen is better than Xavier Hutchinson.
Nico Collins.
He's not better than
No, Nico Collins was just blanketed by a really, really good defensive
That's
team.
like what we here for.
We said no excuses on the show. Texas Bowl time. LSU. Someone explain to me why they have gone from a 4-point favorite to a 3.5-point dog in just a matter of 10 days or so. Gabe, can you explain that to me?
This is the market overreacting to the LSU opt-outs. People think Kyron Lacey is a lot more important than he actually is. They don't realize Aaron Anderson was LSU's best receiver this season.
Is Taylor playing?
Taylor, I don't think is playing, right?
I don't know.
Mason
I don't
Taylor's
know
out,
if he's
I think.
made a decision.
I haven't heard anything about him.
I know the
already-
two
I was
offensive
asking.
linemen.
I thought Mason Taylor already said he was going bye-bye.
He's going to the pros.
Let me research that.
So, well, yeah, he's going to pros. That doesn't mean he's not playing, I guess. Anyway,
He's going to be
all
a
right.
really good pro. They definitely didn't use him enough.
I'm going to go first here. I agree with Gabe. I think that this and David will answer. So we're going to come back to the Saints. I know you missed part of the show, but David, we're going to come back to the Saints as soon as we're done with our CFB picks. I'm going to go first here. I know this isn't a CFB playoff game, but throw it up there because they're playing tomorrow at 2:30. I think LSU is going to win this game. I mean, remember when everybody wanted Dave Aranda? I know I've said this a few times, but Dave Aranda, he's got to be the next LSU coach. They hired Brian Kelly. Well, guess what? Baylor sucks. I mean, they're okay, but I still think
They won, what, 8 straight games this year? Or
They're
not?
playing the
It's
Big
not
Yeah,
Stroud.
they were
They
really
played
bad and then turned it around.
they
Yeah,
played
they
an
turned around.
awful
Dave Aranda's done a
conference.
good job.
Playing an
They did have
awful conference.
I get everything you're saying, but I think LSU's
I'm
going to
thinking
win this
LSU
game. too. I
plus
think this
3.5.
game's going to be. I think this game's going to be low scoring.
So you like the under 59? That is high.
Yeah.
Gabe,
Do what?
what are you,
Sorry,
you
I'm
taking
trying to look
LSU?
up Mason Taylor. I think Mason Taylor's out. What?
Taking LSU?
I think LSU plus 3.5. Once it reaches plus 3.5, you have to bet LSU.
All right.
Do you
So
like the
we-
over
I mean-
or under? I really like the under.
I don't know how I feel about this game, but as long as I think Garrett Nussmeier is probably the best quarterback in this game, probably the best offensive player.
Oh, there's no question.
Caden Durham's still going to play. Aaron Anderson's still playing. Yeah, you have to take LSU with plus 3.5.
I think that Garrett Nussmeier takes his first leap towards becoming the Heisman favorite next year.
There's no way.
I'm really
he's the Heisman
disappointed
favorite
that
next
he's plus 600. That's all he is plus 6. He's not really that. He's like third on the list.
That's
was
the
second.
LSU tax. He was like plus 1,400 to start this year.
Oh, go ahead, haters. I can't wait till we have this conversation next year. All right, moving on to the real
No,
game.
I'm not hating. I told you I wanted to bet it, but I don't like the odds.
So all right, well,
I'm not betting that.
so
I'm
we
not
all like
betting that
LSU
either.
plus 3.5.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
what we
bet
like.
Burrow to win the Heisman after his junior year. It was
Yeah,
plus
I know.
6,000.
You won it.
And
You won.
now
I'm just happy
I just
won
thought it'd be a lot
Monaco.
more.
I won
Joe
Monaco.
Burrow should win the NFL MVP this year.
All right, moving on. Fiesta Bowl, first real bowl, the only one on Tuesday, on New Year's Eve, 6:30 p.m. You're going to be shooting fireworks, or are you going to be watching Boise State with the upset? I don't know who I'm picking yet. I want to hear from y'all first. Uncle Big Nick, you go first on this one.
I'm taking Penn State in this game.
Minus 11?
Yeah, minus 11. I think they blow out Boise State. I think they shut down Genty. I know James Franklin has this thing of he can't win the big games, but he can't win big games when the big game is Michigan and Ohio State. This is not Michigan and Ohio State. We seen what they did to SMU last week, and I think he shut down Genty. I don't think Gaskin or Madsen, whatever his name is, can beat them.
Boy, that's a lot of hate on Genty. Gabe Henderson?
I like Genty. I just don't think he's good enough to run all over Penn State. And I also love the under in this game because both these teams want to run the ball. That's all they want to do is run. So
Okay.
I just think I think they control the clock. Penn State's gonna run all over this Boise team. I'm telling you, Singleton.
That scares
They
me
gonna
with the
run over.
over-under. Go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah,
I don't think Boise's gonna score.
So, Jim, I know you don't have windows in your room where you are, but can you look outside real quick and see if pigs are flying? Because UBN and I are going to completely agree on this.
Okay, wow.
I love Penn State here. I agree. One of my favorite props, I've got a write up on this. My favorite prop for this game at Bet365, you can get Drew Aller over under 29.5 pass attempts. He's only cleared that
Under.
total twice this season, and I'm hammering the under. The two times he's cleared it were against Oregon in a shootout where they were trailing all game and in an overtime game against USC. I think, like UBN said, Penn State's going to run the ball. Both their running backs are heavily juiced to score touchdowns. And I think they're going to contain Genty. They've only allowed one running back to go over 100 yards this season. Genty's prop is set at 125.5, which is a little too high. So unless Boise State really kind of accepts defeat in the second half and just tries to get him the record, I think he's going to go under. And I think Penn State's going to comfortably win.
Let's see. What is it that the old man likes to say? Not so fast, my friends. It's got to be someone who's going to. I can't believe I'm the one taking Boise State here, but y'all talk about Genty and they're going to stop. No one stopped. I know they haven't played the toughest schedule on the planet, but I mean, you look at his rushing logs and the worst game he's had all year, yardage wise, is 127. And the reason why it was so low is because he only carried it 11 times. I'm sorry, but I don't think anyone's stopping Genty. I think this dude is NFL ready, and NFL ready means Penn State ain't stopping you either. So I'm not necessarily running the window to bet over 126 but that's still, if he rushed for 126, that would be the lowest number of yards he got all year.
This
Now,
is also the best rush defense he's playing comfortably. Penn
Well,
State's
and
got the number
may
7
play-
rush defense.
He may play a bigger
UNLV
role
was
out of the
previous
passing
best
game.
at
He may play a
24.
bigger role out of the pass game. I get it, but I'm taking Boise State here. I just don't. I don't know why I'm not sold on Penn State yet, but maybe it's James Franklin. I don't know what it is. I hate that college football has tried to set this up so Penn State or Notre Dame makes it to the championship game, because that's what they've done.
I don't think they tried to set it up. It's just it's terrible the way they got to redo the bracket.
They're talking about redoing it next
Yeah,
year.
they really do. All right, Saint for Life says Penn State's a very good team.
I don't think Drew Aller
guys
is going to light anyone up.
I agree. Rob says he likes Boise to cover, likely not to win. I don't know if I'm going as far to say that I think Boise will win. It wouldn't surprise me if they win, but I do think that this is a close game all the way until the end. No one really believes in them. I do. So I'm going to take Boise, and we'll see what happens. All right, moving on to New Year's Day. The Peach Bowl is the first one. It's at noon. Will I be up there by then? Yeah, probably. Texas and Arizona State. The Longhorns, the biggest favorite of the entire playoffs, at least in this Elite 8 round. They're 12.5-point favorites against Sun Devils. I'm going to start with Gabe Henderson this time.
I'm not touching this spread.
Oh, I am. Go ahead.
I think Arizona State's a scrappy team. I think Texas is the best team in the country. I just see a path there for a backdoor cover, and I just want no part of it. This is, I mean, if you're a fan of running the football and you like that Penn State Boise matchup, you want to get up early being relative, to watch this game.
Get up early, it's freaking noon.
That's why I said relative. Gym City might not be up.
Dude, when you're
Gym City might not
26,
be up.
27 years old, noon's early on New Year's Day. I can tell you, I remember I once woke up on New Year's Day at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Oh my goodness! But between Cam Scatterbo, who I think is one of the best backs in the country, and Texas's 3, 4, 5, 6-headed monster at running back, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Charles says Texas wins by 10, which means they don't cover. If we were doing the 5-4-3-2-1 thing, Nick, this game would be my 5-point pick. I'm going to save it. I'm going to let you go first. I don't even remember. What was your? Was this?
I had Texas. Yeah, I had Texas.
You got Texas minus 12.5. Go ahead, explain yourself.
I just think they shut down Scatterbo, and I think that's all that Arizona State has. And I think the Texas offensive line and defensive line are going to destroy Arizona State's lines. So I just really can see Texas just controlling the ball, limited viewers like Penn State's going to do Rattler, and just run the ball down Arizona State's throats. And ain't nothing they're going to be able to do about it. I really like second half Texas more than like the beginning of the game, because I think they wear them out. I think they're going to be so worn out by the end of this game that Texas is going to break off a bunch of big runs with, like he said, the 4th and 5th string running backs and stuff.
Let me ask you this real quick, man. Does it concern you that Texas did the same thing to Clemson last week and Clemson played better in the second half?
No, because Clemson has way better athletes than Arizona State does. They got way more options. And without Tyson, without their number one wide receivers, I think it's his name, Tyson, like I just don't see where they have anything else.
This is my favorite bet of all the way, including last week, this week. It may end up being my favorite bet of the entire playoffs. I think Texas stomps the floor.
Yeah.
Like just rolls over this team. I'm not even certain that Arizona State's going to score more than 10 points. I think Texas wins like 40-10. Like this is why I'd be afraid to bet your second half bet, because I think they might just come out and just roll the 3 or 4 touchdowns and kind of take it easy, which I'm not saying I disagree with your second half bet. I'm just saying I wouldn't bet it because I think that I like Texas that much, minus 12.5. You can make it minus 18.
I just think the backups at Texas is going to, like the backup line is going to be able to destroy the Arizona State line. So Texas is so good up front, and I just don't see where Arizona State can compete here.
Okay, Randall, first off, South Carolina should have got in instead of Arizona State. They can't. Arizona State won their conference.
Yeah.
They had to get in. So, I mean, that's
not only that, Arizona State's a better team than South Carolina.
I don't even know if I agree with that. That's a whole different debate. I don't think I do. I don't think I do agree with that. However, doesn't matter. Arizona State absolutely
if you think South Carolina should have gotten in over anyone, it's SMU.
Yeah. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. You win your conference, you deserve to be. You win one of the Power 4 conferences. You 100% deserve to be in. Doesn't matter what else happens. I think Clemson sucks, but they won their way in and deserve to be in. All right, moving on after my 5-point pick. The Rose Bowl, I don't even think I have a play. I mean, I'll make a play like if I had to bet kind of thing, but I'm just telling you, this one is a coin flip to me. I will say that I think Ohio State is really being just not valued enough. And I know Uncle Big Nick hates Ohio State. I didn't look at your picks because I knew we were going to talk about it this way, and I kind of didn't want to know. So I'm guessing you're going to go Oregon here because you hate Ohio State. But I just think that
I don't think Ohio State's that good. I
completely disagree, and I'm not a Will Howard fan at all. But I just think Ohio State is just completely getting thrown under the bus. You be in?
I don't think they are. I mean, at the beginning of this, Oregon was favored, and now that Ohio State wiped the floor with Tennessee, it turned this much to Ohio State being favored by 2.5. And I just think I'm not breaking any ground here. I think that whoever Texas plays, Ohio State or Oregon, I think that's the national championship next week.
I agree.
Because I don't think any team, Notre Dame, Penn State, any team at the bottom of the bracket is going to win, which I think everybody agrees with that. So I really think this is a huge game. I mean, everybody knows it's the biggest game of the weekend. And I hate picking a team to win that won last time, you know. But
No, I hear you.
I hate picking a team twice, but I just think Oregon is hitting on all cylinders right now. Tennessee just had a bad game plan against the whole Ohio State team, and Tennessee is not that good. Ohio State is not that good.
This is why you're screwed. This is why you're screwed with your pick. Randall says Ohio State loses. Charles Mangus, Ohio State by 7. Kyle Sherman says Oregon will win. Close game, under 55.5.
I mean, I think if you
Oregon
poll
by 2 touchdowns, you crank.
Oh my God, that's nuts.
No.
I think if you poll 100 people, you get 50-50 on this game.
Yeah,
so I mean, really, it's just your opinion or what you think. This is going to be the best game of the day.
That's why I'm not even playing this game, 100%. Gabe. I
don't think I'm playing it either, but we have to pick it here. So
I know, but
if I had to play it, I'd bet.
You can't help yourself. You're going to play something.
Yeah, I'm going to play something because it's.
You can't help yourself. You're a degenerate.
No.
Gabe Henderson, I'm honestly probably not touching this game at all. I'm just going to enjoy it for fun.
And you may be at my house watching this game too.
I probably will. And I will say this. Look, I got to give Dylan Gabriel credit because I was giving him a lot of crap early in the season. He has definitely turned it around and has had an excellent second half of the season. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Oregon went on like
I think Oregon has the coaching advantage too.
Yeah, and if Oregon wins this game, I think Oregon Texas is one hell of a semifinal.
That's going to be so
That's the
good.
one that I'm looking forward to seeing. But I still think Ohio State's the better team overall.
Can we just take a second to talk about the fact that Randall said that I'm drunk a second ago and then had the cojones to type in Oregon by 2 touchdowns?
I can't see the comments. I didn't see that.
I can assure you, both Randall and Sean, one is winning this game by 14 points.
Are you drunk?
Not a chance. No, I mean, this is...
okay, just making sure. I don't care if you are.
No.
Okay. I mean, as long as you don't say anything stupid, you could be 8 sheets to the win for all I care.
I'm not drunk, and I said something stupid in the beginning, so I mean...
so
anyway,
let's bet. If Randall, I will bet you anything if you give me a 2 touchdown spread in this game.
Yeah, go put your money on the outline, buddy. You can win some real. Yeah,
you
can win.
FanDuel
You can win more than beer money.
You
go put money on the outline at 14. You're gonna win some serious money. All right.
You can win an Anheuser-Busch truck.
I don't think none of us have strong opinions on this game. We're just looking forward to watching it.
No, I will say this though.
Go ahead. UBN, if he had to pick one, he'd pick Oregon. If I had to pick, I'd take Ohio State, but just barely. Gabe, if you had to pick.
If I had to pick, every fiber of my being wants to take Oregon plus 2.5, but I'm not gonna. I would take Ohio State minus 2.5, and that's solely because, and people forget this, Ohio State should have won the football game in Oregon.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Dan Lanning is not a great big game coach. Neither is Ryan Day.
I was going to say Ryan Day.
I mean, so that's why it's true. This is truly a toss-up.
Here's the good news for Ohio State.
2 really good rosters.
Oregon does not wear blue. So
what do you value more, rest versus rust? I mean, the debate that comes in every baseball playoffs.
Yeah,
that's what we're getting.
I don't think this
matters. I really think that if Oregon comes out and gets like a 10-point lead, like all the pressure is on Day. Like he's going to get so tight. That's why they lose to Michigan because they get so tight. And all the pressure is going to be
because
on
it's
him.
Michigan. That's because it's Michigan. It's not I don't really think they have more pressure in a game against Michigan than they would have.
They put all that on themselves. They do that to themselves.
I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying they have more pressure playing Michigan than if they win the national championship game because that's just what it is.
The thing that makes this game so tough to predict is because for a majority of the season, I would agree with UBN, Ohio State was not a good football team. They were touted as this great, there's unstoppable NIL juggernaut to come into the year. Yeah. And they laid an egg for the entire season, especially against Michigan. But what we saw last week against Tennessee, that's the roster that we were promised. That's the team that looks like one of the best in the country.
But you know how hard it is in college to do that back-to-back?
Yeah, no,
it's so hard for college teams to do that back-to-back weeks.
Yeah. Exactly.
You see it all season.
That's what's giving me pause. I just don't know which team is going to show up for Ohio State, and that's what's really tough about this.
It'll be fun. Last note before we move on to the last game, which I also think is interesting. Charles wants to know when the toga party is, UBN. Do you have to wear a toga to to your
No,
house? On New
no,
Year's
please
Day?
don't wear a toga.
Okay, just making sure. All right. Speaking of the
I mean, to
toga
get to
bowl,
my man cave, you don't have to walk to my main house. But my wife, if you show up in a toga, it'd be like, what the hell's going on up there?
just laugh. That's all.
Yeah.
Look, Jim Derry's walking up the driveway in a toga. The neighbors might find it interesting. The Sugar Bowl in New Orleans in the Caesars Superdome. Notre Dame is a 1-point underdog, which means it's basically even. Even I can figure that out. Against the Georgia Bulldogs, who are playing without their starting quarterback, and that might be a good thing. What say you, Uncle Big Nick?
I think Notre Dame wins this game.
Okay.
They lost their best pass rusher, but I don't think it matters. I don't know if y'all know this. I've been giving Beck a hell of a lot of grief, how bad he is. But Georgia receivers lead the nation in drops. Like, bringing in a backup quarterback now, how is that going to help when your receivers can't catch anyway?
Yeah.
The loss of McConkey and Bowers didn't seem that big in the beginning of the year. But now you look at it, look how good these people are in the pros. Like, Bowers is great. McConkey's great. They lost a lot of offense on that side. And they can't run the ball. Notre Dame can run the ball. This game, I mean, the over-under 45, I may take the under. Like, I could see this just being a non-offensive game and just all defense.
Slobber knocker.
Yeah, one of them just like old-time SEC games where it's, 17-10, something like that,
Charles says
9-6, famously.
Charles says Notre Dame wins by 3. Gabe Henderson, what's your play?
I like Georgia as an underdog. I'm not touching him as a favorite, though.
They're not really a favorite. I don't really think.
I know.
Technically they are, but it's
the look-ahead line. I think was like 2.5 in favor of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Before Notre Dame beat the brakes off Indiana, and I liked that. I liked him in that spot. I'm not touching this. I think Notre Dame. Randall talked about earlier South Carolina being the hottest team in the country, but that's not true because it's been Notre Dame. It's not Oregon. Notre Dame has been steamrolling opponents, and it's not like they've played.
Joe Montana playing for Notre Dame?
No, Riley Leonard.
Oh, okay. The next coming of Joe Montana.
So I think
next coming of Steve Young because he runs a lot.
Yeah.
This is one of probably the most evenly matched game in the trenches that we'll see.
I agree with that,
and that's where I really think it's interesting. I just
want to see Notre Dame and Penn State in the semifinals. Who's gonna choke?
Yeah.
The choke bowl.
Well, that'd be interesting. Yeah. Well, look, I had my premonition when this whole thing came out was that Texas and Georgia were going to meet up again in the national championship game. But I'm going to go against premonition and go with logic. And I just think that I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that Notre Dame is the best team on that side of the bracket. And I believe that before Carson Beck got hurt, and I believe it now. I just think that Georgia is a tinge overrated. I think Notre Dame. I think this line's wrong.
I think Georgia's getting a lot of credit for the G on their helmet and not the players.
I agree 100%. I really think Notre Dame should be like a 3-point favorite. But the problem is, if Notre Dame was a 3-point favorite, you'd have everybody betting on Georgia, and the books would have this liability and whatever. And I think the only reason why Aunt Mabel and their friends are betting on Georgia is because it's Georgia. So I'm going to take Notre Dame here, and this is actually something that I might play.
I think they're betting on history.
Yeah, no, I think they are too, and I think that whoever wins this game beats the ever-loving dog snot out of whoever wins the other game. Like, I don't even think it's going to be all that close. So if Notre Dame plays Penn State, then I think they'll whoop up.
Gabe likes Penn State a lot more than I do.
Gabe
I do. I've liked Penn State since before the bracket came out.
He's contractually obligated to do this at least once per show.
But I've not been wrong about Penn State so far. That's the thing.
You want to paint your face again?
No.
All right, maybe we'll get into that.
Jim, I got a question for you on the way out.
Go ahead.
All right, what?
Okay.
I don't know if we're done. If we're done with college football, it says nothing to do with anything. It's just I don't know. It's about Drew Brees and Tom Brady.
Oh boy. Why?
We all talked. It's a legitimate question.
Okay.
We all talked about the debate on who was better, Drew Brees or Tom Brady. Okay. I heard something today on a podcast, and I really don't know how the salary cap works, so I want your opinion on this when I leave. I'm going to listen. Okay. Tom Brady left the Patriots in 2020. Drew Brees left the Saints in 2021. The Patriots right now are 131 million above the cap. The Saints are 63 million below the cap. How does that happen when both the quarterbacks were great and they got played?
It has nothing to do with the quarterbacks because
that's what I don't know.
First of all, Brady was way less greedy than Drew Brees, and anyone who wants to say anything different doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. Because
that's what
Tom Brady.
That's what I've heard, but I wanted to make sure.
Absolutely took less money. However, the reason why New England is better off under the salary cap is because Bill Belichick compiled picks year after year after year, and everything that New England did, or not everything, but most of what New England did was homegrown. They had so many picks, they could afford to miss on. They don't even have to hit on 50% of them because they had so many of them. They could just like pick which one. Okay, you're good. You stink. Get out of here. Whatever. So when you got Tom Brady and you got that many picks, and when you got homegrown talent, you can keep them for 4 to 6 years, and then you just say, okay, now you're getting paid. Be on your merry way. And
I'm just trying to figure out how both quarterbacks were great.
Patriots.
And now one's in salary cap hell at 32nd in the league. One's they first in the league with money to spend. So it's just crazy. Well, it was crazy to me when I heard that. And I really don't know how the salary cap works. I admit it. Like, I don't know how that stuff works.
You know, you and I may have we'll call it a bitch session once a week when in the offseason, when we don't have anything else to talk about. And you can bring up whatever you want. And we can have a 10-minute conversation on it. And I won't even know what it is. And I think that sounds like a good segment, right?
Can I just weigh in on that really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the biggest difference, to answer Ian's question, the New England front office realized that it's not going to win anytime soon.
Yeah.
They stripped all of the talent off that team, whereas the Saints have still been under this illusion that they are 1 or 2 moves away.
I can't disagree with you. I can't disagree with you, and we've talked about this before.
I think if the Patriots pay for T. Higgins,
but I also think
Higgins, Drake May, Hunter Henry, like you have a good nucleus to start.
I also think that beyond that, Gabe, too, and again, this is for another show, but New England knew they were going to stink for 3-4 years. So let Gerard Mayo be the coach. No, whoever succeeds Belichick's not going to be successful anyway. So let Gerard Mayo come in, let him stink up the joint for a couple years, and then we'll go get who we really want. And I got to be honest, if you want a surprise move, because it could happen. I don't think it's going to happen. It could happen. I would not be surprised whatsoever. I certainly wouldn't be shocked if the Patriots said, you know what? We're going to move this up a year, and we're going to go get Mike Vrabel. Because if the Patriots come a-calling, he's going to be answering. I can promise.
I think it was Rappaport who said that Robert Kraft loves Mayo and that they're not willing to move on. I also think the whole
those idiots don't know what they're talking about.
The whole, I mean, they do, because they were the ones who reported the Penix news, and we all looked at them crazy, and then they drafted Penix 8.
But that doesn't mean that though.
No, but here's the thing with Vrabel.
Is BS.
Here's the thing with Vrabel.
Like weathermen.
I think if Ohio State fires Ryan Day if they lose, I think Vrabel goes to Ohio State. I really do.
First of all, they're not firing him.
I don't know. I don't know at this point. I mean, Ohio State.
If they lose to Oregon,
they're the type of crazy to do that. They're the type of crazy.
Let me just say, it would take crazy. It would take absolutely
crazy.
Stupid.
Oh, it is crazy.
They're crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
He could lose to Michigan 4 years in a row and then win 4 championships in a row, and they'd still fire him in the same year. Like I'm telling you.
This for another show. We're at an hour and a half. I got to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, so I'll just one final comment.
Okay, this 3 box actually worked. Yeah. We will do this again.
I agree.
For too long.
One final comment. I'm going to be the not so fast graphics guy. You know how on game day they put up the graphics, and the person at the end, usually Herb Street, saves the graphic from being embarrassed. I'm going to be the one person to pick Georgia solely so we don't all look crazy if Georgia wins this game.
Okay. I don't think it's crazy to pick Georgia. I mean,
no, neither do I. I just think it'd be crazy if we all picked Notre Dame and Georgia ends up winning.
They became Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Just think of all the Kelly haters, how much they can say. Oh, look how far they went without Kelly.
No, don't get me started. All right. We'll do this again before the national championship game for sure.
Hey, Jim, see you next year.
See you next year. All right. Adios, gentlemen.
Later.
Whoops. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this. All right. You know, it is what it is. Ryan Day. See, Randall, you're perfect. Look, I'm not being mean here. I'm truly not being mean when I tell you this. Okay? Take this for what it's worth. This is a perfect example of why I have a problem with fans in general just saying stupid shit. There's no other way to say it. Ryan Day should have been fired last year. Fans are so impatient. Okay? You better win now or you're going. That's just the dumbest thing. I mean, if you don't win a national championship now, who cares if you have a great team? You know what happens if you fire a guy like Ryan Day? And I'm using this is a perfect example, but not just for Ohio State. I'm talking about in general. Ohio State will always be good because they're Ohio State. But what happens if you fire Ryan Day and then you go like 9-4 the next 3 years in a row? Maybe we shouldn't have fired Ryan Day. No, they're too stubborn. They'll never say that. It's ridiculous. Goes back to like the Brian Kelly haters. It's easy to say anything. You can, if your team stinks for like, well, it's not even stink. They don't even have to stink. They could be just, they're good, but they're not great. Not good enough. Adios. Come on, man. And again, it's not just Ryan Day. It's a perfect example of how fans are not realistic. Now, it's completely different. We're going to move back to the Saints. It's a perfect segue to go back to the Saints. And what's next for this team? There's no question that we weren't overreacting. And I said it here on the show. I thought Dennis Allen should have been gone after last year. I thought the whole rebuild should have started a long time ago. I was okay that it even might have started with Dennis Allen at the helm because I wasn't 100% sure before the end of last year. Now, the end of last year changed my mind. But before the end of I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm going to tell you what I thought. I know there's a lot of you out there that want to say, they should have never hired Dennis Allen, blah, 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 blah. But if you go back to when Sean Payton left, it was the right hire for this team. And I think that 85 to 90%, I don't want to hear you say, I said back then, whatever, show me a receipt, show me a message from 2021 or whatever the hell it was that you said it, and then I'll show it on the screen. We can believe it. But going back then, it was the right thing to do to hire Dennis Allen. Okay? What they have done since they've hired Dennis Allen, it includes Mickey Loomis. It includes everybody involved in this organization, not just Mickey Loomis. Okay? But they have not adjusted. They've gotten worse every year. For 4 straight years, gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's not just because Drew Brees is gone and he's never coming back. But the difference between the Saints and other teams, and I'm just saying in general, that fans are completely unrealistic. That's why you have to take a grain of salt when the answer to everything these days, and I mean everything, is fire them. Fire them. It's not the answer to everything. It's just not. Williams says the Saints are serious about winning. They need to move Loomis out of his current position and hire a GM from a winning organization. Secondly, as far as head coach goes, Liam Cohen is your pick. Yeah, I get it. I just don't. Again, I just think you're wasting your breath. You're giving yourself a better chance for arthritis when you type in fire Loomis. Because no one cares that you want Mickey Loomis to be fired. The Saints don't care. They're not going to fire him. Saints not going to fire him. He's going to leave when he wants to leave. He's going to do what he wants to do. You don't have to. You have to cut bait when it's now. You don't have to do anything. Saints have proof of that. They don't have to do anything. The Saints knew they had a losing record. So what? Lots of coaches have losing. I mean, I've seen people in here saying they want Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury stinks. The same people who want Cliff Kingsbury will be saying later on, they should have known better. He's a retread. He had a losing record. His record was X and X. Whatever. Yeah, it's easy to come in after the fact and say so-and-so sucks. Okay, is my point. This has to be a well thought out plan. And I hope that they've been thinking about this already. I hope this isn't just something that when I say the wheels should be in motion on January the 6th, which is the day after this mercifully last game, which, by the way, the Saints are 2 touchdown underdogs again in Tampa Bay. Remember we were telling you last week before the Monday night game, it's the first time they were 2 touchdown underdogs since, 2000? Or somewhere along those lines? It was the first time, 14 and a half. It was the first time they've been 14 and a half point underdogs since 1994 or whatever it was. It's going to happen again. Apathy, you got that right. End of the season, Loomis presser going to be hilarious, no matter what. What's he going to say in that presser? He's going to get asked the question. Is he going to be ready for it? Is he going to be sitting there? Is he going to say, I've had enough? Because I think that's when you're going to find out. I don't think he's going to go into that presser. If he's leaving, he's not going to go through that presser and back himself up. I think he's going to tell you he's leaving. I don't know. Can they lure Dan Lanning with a $20 million a year salary? You think the Saints are paying a coach $20 million a year? Ain't happening. So the answer is no. I mean, I don't know. We've been through this. I know that we disagree. We're going to have lots to talk about. And I just don't think it's going to take, I don't think it's going to be a long time. I mean, you know me, when it comes to the Saints, I don't usually expect changes. And it takes a lot for me to even say there are going to be changes and be quick. I think there could be changes in a hurry. I think there are going to be changes in a big hurry. I don't know what this means. 0-28. What does that mean? I'm not sure what that means. Lance says Mick won't go. No coach wants to come here. No hot coordinator has the ability to rebuild. Focus on culture, toughness, and details. I call Salah, but 49ers defense, Kubiak will be better. Kubiak would be better than what? Kubiak's gone. I got to be honest. I think I give Kubiak a 15% chance of still being a part of this team after January. Might still be. They might not officially fire him. They might wait till the next coach. Let's say February 1st. I think he'll be gone. Sean says Loomis will be the Saints until the next owner. Next owner is nowhere near. The next owner is nowhere near in sight. Gail Benson is going nowhere. Nor do you want her to go anywhere. If I'm gonna repeat myself because apparently either y'all are coming in and out and missed it, or you got too much wax in your ears and you can't hear me. If you're a Saints fan, you do not want Gail Benson to not be the owner. You want Gail Benson. I don't care what you think, say. You're not being rational. If you're a Saints fan, you want Gail Benson to be the owner of this football team. Because here's my question to you. Would you rather have a crappy football team? And I'm not saying it's the only answer. I'm not saying they can't be good with Gail Benson as owner, because I do think they can be good with Gail Benson as owner. But here's my question to you. If you don't think they can be good with Gail Benson, would you rather have a crappy football team or no football team? Because those are your options. You either have Gail Benson or you have the San Antonio Saints or the Salt Lake Saints or the Portland Saints or some other Saints that ain't New Orleans Saints. Saints ain't staying here without Benson. There just simply isn't enough. There aren't enough people unless like 30 of y'all go running Evangeline Securities and Nick Braden can afford to buy the Saints. Great. I know he's going to let me sit in the suite. I don't want to sit in the press box anymore. You thought it was in Benson's will that if she sold the team. She's not selling the team. Just moving to Utah. Yeah, I bet it'd be closer to you. Team can't leave New Orleans. They can't leave New Orleans. What if they can't find an owner? You can't force ownership of people that can't afford this team. Kyle Sherman. Gail's respected and committed. She's a quality person who loves the city. I 100% agree. And it really pisses me off because y'all don't know what the hell y'all talking about when y'all start dissing on Gail. I'm sorry, you don't. She deserves to own this team, whether you want to believe it or not. I don't care what, I got to be honest. I don't care if you don't believe me or agree with me. Don't care one bit, not one iota. Gail Benson deserves to own this team, and she's going to own it. I see numbers are dropping. They don't want to hear that. Just like when y'all don't want to hear stuff, y'all just click off of it. I'm just telling you. If you want the Saints to stay in New Orleans, you want Gail Benson to be the owner. Period. Amen. She could do whatever she wants. Saints worth $4.5 billion. A lot of money. Sean says they didn't want Gail gone. Just wants the front office folks to be comfortable under her. I don't necessarily. I think that this group of administrators, I don't think there's a more comfortable group in the NFL than these dudes. I got to be honest. You think they're not comfortable? Dennis Lauscha is Gail Benson's right-hand man. Here's something we can agree on. They're too comfortable. Too comfortable. I'm just saying. Lance says Gail is a great owner. I see it so much in social media. Y'all just don't know what y'all talking about. Just because because she's not doing what you want her to do. I mean, McDonald's only puts the McRib back on the menu like 2 weeks out of the year. I think the McDonald's owner is whoever is the CEO of McDonald's an idiot and should be fired for that. I don't care what I think. Just saying. A lot of changes need to be made. That's what we're going to be talking about here. That's what this show is going to be about. We didn't get I know there's a lot of people who talking about Joe Brady and maybe Vrabel. I think Vrabel would probably be the best candidate. Yeah, no, McRibgate. It's kind of BS, man. UBN says McRib's the only thing he likes at McDonald's. I mean, it's why isn't it on the menu all year long? We could do a whole show on that probably. Maybe get McDonald's as a sponsor. Who knows? Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up with that. Again, we got so much time to talk about this over the course of the next few weeks. And I will tell you this, as I meant to put this slide up. There it is. I will tell y'all this going forward. If something happens in this breaking news, we may just pop up with a live show. So if the Saints do hire somebody on like a Tuesday at 4:00 in the afternoon, we might have a show at 4:30 in the afternoon. That might just pop up. But for now, the next show is going to be on Friday, January the 3rd. Again, I know I was sick last week, and it sucks that I wasn't able to have a show on Friday. But we're not going to have a show on New Year's. No reason for that. You can go off here with a few more comments. Hector Garcia says, Happy New Year from Ecuador. Unfortunately, was able to see the debacle yesterday. Well, good for you. Mrs. Benson has been great. We get it. It was because of her that we got rid of Dennis Allen. That is also true. Next head coach should be defensive-minded or offensive-minded. Asking, should we? I think offensive-minded. I just think they need to change from what they've had. And so, excuse me. Sorry, I'm getting to the end here. I'm struggling to the finish line. Same for life says Gail Benson isn't the problem at all. Sorry. People that were placed when she took over. That's true. You got to remember that. These are all Tom Benson's people. Preacher Man says, proved it to me when she stepped over Loomis and fired Allen. Absolutely. That's part of it. You want me to have a live show from the Saints media room? That ain't happening. My days in that media room are over. Apathy. I don't miss that media room. I still spend my days in the press box on game day. I didn't go yesterday because I was sick. I'm really sorry that I missed it too. Rainy Cajun. McRib. We live in one of the best spots for food in the world. And did I say my go-to was McDonald's and McRib? Just because we live in New Orleans doesn't mean we don't eat at McDonald's. I love McDonald's as much as the next dude. Doesn't mean I don't eat a fried oyster po' boy once a week, or I don't look like this for nothing. Although my New Year's resolution, I'll tell y'all what it is on Friday. We'll see if I stuck to it by then. Charles says, missed a show. Sorry, I was sick. Yeah, I didn't have a show Friday. So hopefully we won't have any more missed shows. But we're not going to do a show on Wednesday, New Year's Eve. We're back to our regular schedule. Wednesday's a holiday. We're going to take the holiday. We'll be back on Friday, January the 3rd. Saint for Life says Ben Johnson of Vrabel is his picks for next coach. Doesn't think Johnson will accept it. He won't. There's a 0, and I said this to somebody yesterday. If it were a mathematical possibility to have less than 0% chance, I would say there's a less than 0% chance that Johnson is the next coach of the Saints. Hector, Oyster Po' Boys rule. Man, it's oyster season too. Thank you, Randall. I hope I get well soon. Hopefully by Friday I won't sound like this. I won't be coughing every 5 seconds. But we are going to wrap it up. Again, I'm struggling to get to the finish line. But hey, made it an hour and 46 minutes. All right. Oh, by the way, real quick, Detroit -2.5 at San Francisco tonight. Lions. I got a feeling we might have an upset there tonight. I'm not going to go all out. I'm going to take the Niners plus the 3.5. Not going to take the money line. I did, again, I know I kind of snuck it in there, but someone on this show, one of the 3 people that were on the show today, won his knockout pool. I don't know who that was. Let's just say that computer I just bought, it got paid for and then some. So, Merry Christmas to me. Merry Christmas belated to you. Happy holiday season to everyone. You celebrate Hanukkah. You celebrate Kwanzaa. You celebrate Christmas. No matter what you celebrate, we love you here on Dattitude. And we hope you have a good holiday season. Again, we will be back on Friday, January 3rd. We will probably talk about the college football semifinals that are coming up, give an advance on what we think, what we thought about the games. We will have Larry Holder on the show. We will talk about the Saints finale against Tampa Bay. Do they care? Do we care? What do we want to see? I don't know. I don't even know. I have no idea. Charles says no upset. Detroit wins. Yeah, I just love Detroit. I hate to ruin the party. By the way, we are going to be doing a lot of things during the Super Bowl. I hope. I think we're getting. I think we got to get approved for Radio Row. I will see. I will know more about that coming up. And I will be at the Super Bowl. So all that stuff coming up as we kind of changed. I don't want to say format, but we're definitely not going to be Saints 80-90% of the time anymore. We're going to talk a lot about the Saints, but we're also going to talk about things that are going on in the national world of sports more. And judging by what I've seen today and what I've seen in the recent past, I know that y'all will be okay with that. Again, Friday, Larry Holder's here. We're talking about not only Saints Tampa Bay, but some of the big games coming up in the NFL, including Minnesota against Detroit on Sunday Night Football to wrap up the 2024 regular season. We will definitely get into that. We'll get into all the scenarios. Atlanta looks like they're going to miss the playoffs. That's a shame. Reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. I want to thank UBN. I want to thank Gabe Henderson. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast, including Apple, Spotify, and many more, and find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. My word of advice for you as we go off the air on this New Year's Eve is don't shoot your eye out with those bottle rockets. Play it safe. Always play it safe. Happy New Year, everyone. We will see you on Friday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.